Hello, my name is Tuppence, and this huge pile of stuff is what I'm going to be playing with this week. So I have got a bunch of different clays. I've got Sculpey Premo polymer clay. This is another polymer clay, but it's just from a cheap shop. I think that was £2 for 10 bits. This is foam air dry clay. I've got an assortment of cutters, and I've got loads of things to create texture. I've got some stencils, embossing folders, stamps and nail plates. And to add a little bit of colour, I have got an assortment of mica powders. So I'm just going to have a go at playing and seeing whether I can turn this cheap clay into something a little bit more fancy and just have some fun along the way. So why don't you come join me? So I'm going to start with the polymer clay. And you need to work it first. You need to knead it and warm it up and make it a little bit soft. So I'm just going to get this into a workable state and then I can roll this out and start. Now, one of the problems I found with this clay is it tends to stick. I'm going to put this between two pieces of parchment paper and then I can roll that out. Otherwise it will stick to my acrylic roller. In fact, it is so sticky, it's even trying to stick to this parchment paper as well. I'm not worrying about the thickness of this at the moment. I just want it into a nice flat surface. Try and pull that paper back so that it isn't tearing bits off. Just do it nice and slowly. Yeah, although this is very cheap, it's great for messing around with. I really wouldn't recommend it as clay, so I'm trying to use it up. So now I have an assortment of cutters and I've got these teardrop ones. I'm going to use the smallest one because I haven't got very much of this clay and I do want to try a few different things. So I'm going to cut that out first and then see if I can get that out of the cutter without distorting the shape of it. Okay, that's not bad. Just smooth those edges. Now the first thing I'm going to try is a stencil. So this is just one that I cut out of a sheet of acetate. So I'm going to press that down. Hopefully that will put a little bit of an impression. And then I might as well brush some of this gold mica over the top. It's more a coppery than a gold. And it should stick to the polymer clay. And then hopefully I should have a nice pattern when I remove the stencil. Alright, let me take that away. And there we go, that's not bad. Let's see if I can get that off of the parchment paper. I'm just going to set that off to the side and I'll be baking everything at the end. But what I do need to do is to add a hole so that I can put a jump ring through and hang this up. So I'm just going to use my dotting tool and I'm going to poke the hole in the top. This should remain the same size even after baking. It doesn't tend to shrink that much. And I've got a little gem out there, so I think I'm probably going to decorate that afterwards. I won't pop it on it now because I don't know that that gem wouldn't melt in the baking. Okay, the next thing I'm going to try is an embossing folder. So these are usually used for cardstock or paper. You have one side which is debossed and another side which is embossed, and they both fit into each other. Squish the paper in between. Now I'm going to use the embossed side so that I create a kind of engraved effect. I'm going to put a little bit of corn flour on top of this because I don't want this to stick. I don't really have very much pattern that I can use on this, but hopefully I'll be able to get enough that I can actually cut something out. So I'm pressing that down really well. And then gently lifting up the folder. And that's not too bad. I do have a pattern there. So let me just see now if I can fit this star on here and cut that out. Alright, push down. I think I've just about got all of that pattern in the star. And I'm going to pull off the excess clay from around the outside and then see if I can get this out of the cutter. Oh, yes. Alright, that's not bad at all. So now I am going to brush on a little bit of this gold. Let me just put the lid back on and shake some mica into that. And then I can take that from the lid. I'm just going to gently brush this across the surface and try and pick up that raised edge and highlight some of those dips in the middle. It should bring the pattern out. Oh, yeah, that's looking pretty good. Alright, so this should bake into the clay once I put this in the oven. Again, I'm going to use my dotting tool to make a hole. Just give that a wriggle, and then I'm going to set this aside also. Now I'm going to try a stamp. This is a rubber stamp, so I'm going to put my clay on top. And again, I'm going to put the parchment on top of that because it is the sticky polymer clay. And I'm just going to roll this out, pressing it down into that texture. And I'm hoping that I'll be able to get this off. I did not put any corn flour down. Should have thought about that first, but I didn't. So hopefully I'll be able to peel this back. Just do it really gently. Oh wow, that's worked really well. And actually, I'm really liking the shape on that. I don't think I'm going to cut that out at all. I think this is a pretty good shape for a pendant. So I'm going to leave that as it is. But of course, I want to add a little bit of colour to that. So again, I think I'm going to go with that coppery gold. It is a really good colour for the blue. Again, I'm going to shake a little bit into my lid. I'm just going to put that onto the parchment paper, try and protect my mat a little bit. And then I'm going to brush this on top. Now the pattern is a little bit more widely spaced, so it's pretty difficult just to catch the highlights on this. The brush is soft and it is actually coating the low lights as well, as you can see, but actually it looks really good. I think I'm going to cover the whole thing in the mica. It's really bringing out that pattern. And hopefully, once it's baked, it's going to look like a piece of metal rather than a piece of clay. Okay, I need to make the hole again, so I'm using the dotting tool. I'm just going to poke that in, give it a little bit of a wiggle round, and then that should bake the hole in place, and I'll be able to put a jump ring. So that's going to go into my baking pile. Next, I'm going to try this nail plate, and I've had to switch my clay out because I don't have any more of that blue left. So this is still polymer clay. It's called Sculpey Premo. Now I'm just going to flatten that out a little bit, and I just want to see whether this is actually going to pick up any kind of impression, because this is not at all a very deep texture. It's barely engraved. You're meant to put nail varnish into it, scrape off the excess, and then you pick that up on a stamping tool and stamp that onto your fingers. But I never use nail varnish. So, oh, I can see, I don't know if you can see on camera, but yes, there is definitely a texture there. However, it's left this mark onto my plate, so I'm just going to clean that off. I've got a paper towel. I'm going to spray a little bit of alcohol onto that and just wipe away that greasy mark from the polymer clay. I want to try and add some colour, and if I didn't clean this off, I have a feeling that the mica is just going to stick to that grease anyway. So let me just make sure this is all nice and clean. Now I don't know if the mica is actually even going to get into these grooves, but I'm going to try it. I think I'm going to try this darker blue because I really like blue and white. It gives me kind of Wedgwood vibes. So let me just brush this onto the plate and hopefully it'll get stuck into those grooves. Let me just brush the excess off so that I can see the shiny plate in between all of that texture. Okay, so now I'm going to try and lay down my polymer clay. Let me see if I can do this without moving this out of place. I've put a little bit of corn flour on top of there, so hopefully it won't stick to my roller. And I'm pressing this down pretty firmly and rolling the roller so that I don't I don't move this out of place. I'm just spreading it flat. Okay, let's see how this goes. Do I have an image? Yes, I do. And it looks pretty good actually. That's really nice and clear. I don't really see very many double images or ghosting. Right, so let me just pick a place that I want to go. Yeah, I think I'm going to have that bit. Press that into the clay, and then I'm going to peel the outer bit away. Now I just got to get that out of the middle without, again, distorting it. So this Sculpey Premo, it's pretty soft, but it's not so soft that you're going to make a mark in it. Alright, that looks really good. Just going to poke the hole in, and then it can join my baking pile. Now I'm going to see what type of effects I can get with some foam air dry clay. Right, I've already rolled out my air dry clay, and foam air dry clay does exactly what it says on the tin. You don't need any heat to dry it, just the air. So I'm going to cut out a flower, and then I can lay my stencil down on top, and I'm going to press this in by rolling the roller pin over the top of it. Doing it pretty gently. The clay is a lot softer than Sculpey or Polymer clay is. And again, I'm going to be brushing over some mica, only this time I'm using pink. This mica comes from Mould and was part of their coaster set. Do check out the video description. You'll find links to the products that I can find that I am using. Alright, you can see that I've made this one a little bit more misshapen. It's very soft and it's easy to squash it. So again, I'm just going to poke a little hole, and this one needs to be set on top of the radiator and just left to air dry, about 24 hours. So the next one is the embossing folder, and I'm just putting a little bit of mica onto the folder itself, and hopefully this will be picked up by that clay. So I've shaken off most of the excess, and now I can just put the clay in place, and I'm just going to press this in place with my fingers, roughly make it round. I'm just going to see if it will fit my cutter, so it needs to be a little bit bigger. That doesn't look too bad. Right, I'm going to add some more mica, and I think I'm going to add some of this gold. I think I'm going to make it look a little bit like verdigris. Just shake some more into my lid. It's going to be mostly gold and then just the odd bit of green. Right, cut off the excess with the cutter. Just going to dip that in the cornflower first, and it's pretty much the right shape and size. Not bad, a little off center but not too bad. I'm going to add the whole with my dotting tool, and again this is going to take 24 hours to dry in the air. Now it's the turn of the rubber stamp, and in a slight change I'm going to use an ink pad first. So I'm going to ink up my stamp, and then when I put that foam clay on top it should pick up this colour. So it's a gold stamp pad, and I've already flattened most of my clay, so now I'm going to lay that on the top and just push that down. I'm pushing straight down with my hand rather than rolling because I don't want to risk getting any ghosting. Alright, I can peel that off. And that's worked really well. The colour is just in the impression. Yep, I'm really happy with the way that that looks. And again, I'm going to use the round cutter to even out the shape, remove the excess, and then use my dotting tool to poke the hole. And lastly, I'm going to use the nail plate. I'm going to apply the blue mica and make sure I get rid of any excess. Then I'm going to place my clay on top and squish that down with my hand. This time I'm going to cut it directly on the nail plate. So again, I've got the round cutter. I'll peel off the excess, and now I'm going to use my fingers to really press down that clay. It can't go anywhere because it's constrained by the circle. And there you go, that's a really good impression. I'm going to add the hole in the top again and set this aside to dry. These are baked and hard now, and I'm putting onto blue tack to lift it off my plate so I can add some UV resin onto the top. Now the mica is fully baked onto this and will not come off even if I rub it, but I do want to make sure that they have a little bit of a shine and that it elevates them. The clay bakes a little bit matte, so by restoring the shine it just makes these look a little bit more special and gives it added protection. For the deeply embossed design, I'm brushing on a very thin coat so that it doesn't mask the embossing, and then I'm curing that under my lamp for 5 minutes. Unlike the polymer clay, the air dry clay has not been baked, and so this mica is just sitting on the surface. So I'm going to seal this in with the UV resin, but I need to be really careful. I can't brush it on. I'm going to very gently spread this without touching the surface. I'm just kind of gently pulling the resin across and gently patting it into place. If I was to rub this mica, it would come off. So by sealing this in place, I'm going to keep my pattern without disturbing it. I'm not going to do the back for now because this still needs a little time to completely dry. But if I was to turn this into any kind of jewellery or a charm, then I would give it a coat all over on all sides with the UV resin. So once I've got this completely covered, this is going to go underneath my lamp also, and this will be on for 5 minutes. So here are the polymer clay ones, they're all done. I've got some jump rings which I'm going to add, and this one I wanted to add a gem. So I'm going to use a little bit of glue just to stick that in the middle, and that'll be perfectly fine on its own. That'll need a few minutes to set, and then I can add a jump ring. I'm going to twist it apart, pass that through the hole, and then twist it back together again. I've only got a couple of jump rings at the moment, so I'm only going to do a couple of pieces. This can be used as an earring, a bag charm, a pendant, a key ring, or even a scrapbooking charm. They're very light, especially the air dry foam clay ones. So here's everything that I made, and at first glance it's pretty hard to tell whether they are air dry foam clay or whether they're polymer clay. So the ones over to this side that I'm touching now, they are the foam clay, and the ones on the other side, they are polymer clay. So you could add things on here, maybe some vinyl, a little bead charm, anything that you like. I think they're really cute though, and I've had so much fun playing with them. I hope you've liked this video, and if you have, please give me a thumbs up, comment, share, subscribe if you haven't, and you'll be able to come back and see what I'm going to make next time. I'm going to leave you with some photographs. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.